Good morning, you guys. I'm sorry about my monotone voice, but we are going to go over planning, starting, and maintaining a budget. Okay, so a budget is a plan for saving and spending income. A well-planned budget lets you know where you stand financially and will prevent emergencies from causing financial strain. Okay. So when you're planning your budget, you will need to estimate your available income for a specific time and decide how large of a portion to set aside for your expenses. So doing this will help you decide what you can and cannot afford, avoid impulse buying, keep track of how you spend your income, make regular savings deposits, and develop financial protection against sickness, unemployment, and accidents. Okay? So with all the stuff that I've been having you guys do with the planning of a budget is to get you in preparation for this. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So your budget can cover any period of time. So it can be a month, it could be 3 months, it could be a year where you get paid one lump sum and you just need to budget for the entire year. Stressful. So with figuring out what your monthly income would be based off of your weekly income was that can vary. So each week your paycheck can vary. So for example, we were working with a 6/16/07. One day it could be $550. The next week it could be $800. Like, you honestly don't know, and that's why you need to budget to make sure that you have enough money to cover everything that needs to be paid for. Okay, so not all your bills will be due on the same day of the month. Okay, so for example, like my house payment is due on the 1st of every month, but my car payment's due on the 15th. And my electricity and water bill, I think they're due on the 24th. Which is an example, like those are 3 different bills with 3 different dates. So I have to make sure that I can afford to pay all of them. So most of the time, employers pay workers every week or every other week. Government jobs, you get paid a lump sum once a month. So you need to be able to pay your bills on time if you use the paycheck to pay your expenses, and all the expenses that are coming up. So what I like to do is to split that in half, because I get paid once a month. So I take half of it and I do everything that I need to at the beginning of the month, and then I sit and save the other half until I need to at the end of the month. Does that make sense? So when you're starting a budget, if your earnings are irregular or overtime pay is involved, it is best to use the lowest likely income for your budget. So it's better to underestimate your income instead of overestimating it, because if you overestimate it, then there's no way for you to cover everything that you need to cover. But if you underestimate it, it's like, oh hey, I have money left over. So you have 3 types of expenses. So you have a fixed expense, which are bills that usually remain the same for each month, such as rent, house payments, installment loans. Fixed irregular expenses are large payments due once or twice a year, such as insurance premiums or property taxes. Okay, so like, your rent's not going to change, your mortgage isn't going to change, your car payment should be the same each month too. I'm thinking of like phone plans. but honestly, it's been a hot minute. I don't know if they do contracts anymore. But it used to be you would do a contract and it'd be the same amount every month and it wouldn't fluctuate. So you have your flexible expenses, and those are bills that usually change from month to month, such as like the food, clothing, utilities, and transportation. So like every 2 weeks you go grocery shopping. So the first 2 weeks you could spend like $300, but the second 2 weeks you can actually spend like $200 or $500. It just honestly depends on what you buy. So like utilities, because you're not using, I don't know what it is. So like if you participate in a thing that they do with the electricity company where you like shut it off for 3 hours a day, you're obviously going to save more than the people who don't shut it off for those 3 hours a day, and causing it to be a variant. And then you have set-asides, which are amounts of money that you accumulate in your budget for specific purposes, such as birthdays, vacations, emergency funds, and savings. So if you have an accurate record of your expenses, this will help determine your average spending pattern for things such as food, housing, utilities, like normal everyday operation, clothing, transportation, entertainment, and personal items. And so a lot of you guys just have mobile banking now, but I know some people still carry around like a register, which is a cute little pocket-sized notebook, specifically for like the date, what the transaction was, and how much, and then if it was like a withdrawal or a deposit, you would add or subtract it from the original amount. So you could use this to record your expenses during the week or from paycheck to paycheck. So with those three, during those three expenses, you also could budget into having actually extra set aside. So if you give yourself a small allowance out of that budget, that's not accounted for, meaning you can do whatever you want with it and not have to worry about it. It gives you a sense of freedom, and it makes budgeting more interesting. So you could use that to clear up debt, or invest it, spend it. Maintaining a budget. So maintaining a workable budget requires accurate records. So you can do this with mobile banking, you can do it with that register. I know one way that my brother does it is he puts it all into an Excel spreadsheet, so he doesn't have to do any of the math himself. So by keeping track of these records, you'll know exactly how much you have spent and how much your lifestyle costs. So whatever method you use, maintaining a successful budget requires cooperation from everyone involved. So like if it's just you and there's nobody else in your house, then obviously you're gonna have to be like super strict about that if you want to save. And then if you're trying to do it for an entire house, so like mom and dad, you, if you got siblings, them, your mom and dad like have to communicate. If it's like you and an older sibling and both of them are working, I'm pretty sure I didn't say your mom. So like your parents and an older sibling, if they're working, then they have to communicate, because if they're helping your parent pay the bills, you know, that communication has to be there to make sure that everything's covered. So.